Adrian Peterson was really good on Sunday when the Arizona Cardinals absolutely lambasted the Tampa Bay Buccaneers. Granted, Jameis Winston was out of this game with it appeared to be a throwing shoulder injury. Still, it seemed like there was no chance that Tampa Bay was going to win this game. Their defense was horrible. However, Adrian Peterson, really good. 26 carries, 134 yards, and 2 touchdowns. Here's what Larry Fitzgerald had to say. I wish he, as an AP, had been here 11 years from the beginning. I'd have a Super Bowl ring already. But having him here, his leadership, his demeanor in the huddle, I think it's reinvigorating everybody. Now, I decided to look into this and put this to the test. It is totally subjective with how you think each season would have gone if they had Adrian Peterson in his prime. And I understand what Larry Fitzgerald is doing, which is, I would have won. Like, that's how I viewed it. Like, oh, I would have won one if he was here, but we're glad he's here now. So let's just think about this, okay? The running backs that they have had, I'm not gonna name them by year, just all of the running backs. David Johnson, Chris Johnson, Andre Ellington, Kerwin Williams, Marion Grace, Stephon Taylor, Robert Hughes, Jonathan Dwyer, Rashard Mendenhall, Beanie Wells, Ryan Williams, Chester Taylor, Tim Hightower, JJ Arrington, Adrian James, and then in 2004 they had Emmitt Smith.
Some of those guys like Rashard Mendenhall and Adrian James were like way past their prime versions of those players. So let's be real about those guys.
So speaking to this point, do I think that they would have won a Super Bowl? I don't know. It's really hard to say. The AFC had inflicted their will ever since Larry Fitzgerald came into the NFL because they've won 9 of 13 years since he has been in the National Football League. So it's hard to say if they would have won. But would their chances have been better? Absolutely, with Adrian Peterson.
Of course they would have.
Would they have had a better running back performance than what Adrian James did in the Super Bowl? Because going back and looking at it, he had 33 yards on 9 carries. Yeah, maybe, but like the Steelers defense was really good too. So am I looking into this way too much? Yeah, but I just want to debunk what he's saying a little bit, even though I love Larry Fitzgerald.
I mean, the Cardinals played as good of a Super Bowl as they could have played. Santonio Holmes, they left a little bit of time on the
Santonio Holmes
clock.
had the greatest catch I've
and
arguably ever
Holmes
seen.
Have made one of the greatest catches. Larry Fitzgerald would have been the reason they won that Super Bowl. It wouldn't have been on AP.
He had 2 touchdowns.
And including the 50-yard breakaway, what looked like for the win touchdown for a guy who is arguably, if not definitively, a top 5 wide receiver all time. The most trustworthy, possibly reliable, next to the Jerry Rices of the world, receivers of all time, in a time where he had to adjust his position completely.
Yeah.
Larry Fitzgerald at one point was the mix of Deshaun Jackson and Jerry Rice, a possession guy who can break away for fly routes coming into the league.
He was like Julio Jones before Julio Jones.
Correct.
Yeah.
And then there was that little lull. He's dealt with some bad quarterbacking at times from Carson Palmer, and he adjusted his position and said, "I'm going to become a veteran Antonio Brown."
I got those 2 actually. Luke McCown, Sean King, John Navarre,
Sean
Matt
King works for us. Sean King's not a quarterback. Go on though. Anybody else?
But he is quarterbacking media.
Did you have a Michael Schur as a quarterback on that list anywhere?
Actually.
Could have been though.
John Navarre, who I'd never heard of, Matt Leinart, Kurt Warner, Derek Anderson, for whatever the media is calling it, the mainstream media, the best backup ever. Kevin Cobb, John Skelton, Ryan Lindley,
Kevin
Brian
Cobb
Hoyer,
had like
Mike
a
Stanton.
really good 2.5-week run.
Man, remember when he got, like that has to be one of the worst
run.
contracts I've ever seen in the National Football League.
Gilmesh got the worst contract.
Kansas City Royal.
Yeah.
Seattle Mariners.
They gave him, he was 8-11.
I didn't say the worst in sports.
Like 4.5 ERA, and they gave Gilmesh $50 million. Yeah. Kevin Kolb is one of the worst contracts ever. Cobb? Like corn on the cob?
Pretty much, yeah.
Not Kolb.
The Eagles signed him, right? Wasn't it the Eagles who gave him a huge contract?
The Eagles gave him a deal because for like a couple of weeks he passed the eye test. Then you find like, man, the eye test.
So did your boy Scott Tolzien.
Hey, Scott Tolzien was a Wisconsin Badger. What's wrong with that?
I don't know what's wrong with it.
I don't know. He might be right now. The Wisconsin Badger starting quarterback is Alex Hornibrook, and if you look at the tape, he might be Scott Tolzien. Tolzien might be taking some pit stops in Madison while he's playing for the.
Well, at least he makes the crowd horny.
Jesus. Moving forward to the point is, would they have had a better chance, Rick? You are right. Yes, they would have.
Yeah, they would have had a better chance. You can't say.
With that, arguably the top receiver, top 3 receiver, and top 3 running back, and any healthy quarterback to do it. That was the Kurt Warner year. They were in the Super Bowl.
Yes.
Yeah. So yeah, those
Against
three
the
guys.
Steelers.
Those three guys. Sure, Kurt Warner led an offense like that for the greatest show on turf when he had Marshall Faulk and he had Torrey Holt, and he had Isaac Bruce. He had a lot of good players. So better
Who
chance.
was their tight end that year? Wasn't a guy with a long last name?
The Rams' greatest show on turf tight end. I need J.R. Jackson. Doesn't watch football anymore.
He's
Well, look that
boycotting.
up. Well, you guys comment below.